Welcome to a new video in which we'll finally finish the line. This process is called inking or digital inking, and for this I'll only be using the basic brush. Sometimes people ask me, what brush are you using? And really, with the standard brush Photoshop has, it's more than enough. Just make sure the option Shape Dynamics is on, and in Size Jitters control, pen pressure is on, okay? Well, I imagine you're using a graphics tablet for this, so if you have your graphics tablet set up properly, that's enough. What does this pen pressure option do? It makes the stroke not being a uniform one like this one, but having the pen pressure option on makes it work depending on the pressure you're applying in the pen. It will look different. As you see here in the example, both ends are thinner, and in the center, the stroke is a bit more thick. So what would it do if I start to do a very, very thin line? I would have to apply a very weak pressure. But if I did one that goes from soft to hard, the stroke would be completely different. And that will make our illustration look so good because varying the path is how the drawing looks best. If everything was the same thickness, it wouldn't look as good as with line evaluation. And in the external strokes, whether it's on the silhouettes, it's a bit more thick and the details in the face are a bit thinner, and that will make the drawing look much better. So for starters, I create a new layer. I'll turn down the opacity in the layer below it as a guide, and we'll zoom in on Stanley's face. So we'll start with a small brush, and let's go with the nose. Let's see. Let's look for shapes that are a bit curvy. But with the illustration style that I have, I try not to make large curves, but I join curves maybe to create a volume like this, like we could do with the cheek. So if you notice, I never use very sharp circles or curves. But recommending these curves is because of the character himself and for what his silhouette is like once we started sketching him. So this part is the most relaxing one. I don't know if it's this one or the coloring part. But since we have the character ready, it's much easier to start drawing, much easier to start talking. Notice that I'm trying to make these lines softly because it's just expression lines, unlike these ones which have to define an important feature. For example, here I'm already painting it black because I know Stanley's hair is also black. So then I think in the inking, I could include everything that is hair. Or maybe for the hair in the head, I won't do it completely black. But I'll create certain patterns that highlight Stanley's curls. This is what I meant when I said that I never do curves composed of just one line. They're always made of various strokes. And notice that I always try to bring the line from one thickness to another using just a stroke, which that will give the character a lot of volume when it's finished. I like how it's coming together. Remember, the wrinkle has to be a bit slimmer. All extra details, which are only aesthetic ones, a bit thinner. And here is when one starts to put some more details, like that line which wasn't drawn, but as you keep drawing, you realize some things you could add to the character, and that will make it look better. This stage is easier done with a graphics tablet. I don't know how people did before, drawing with the mouse, which I think it requires an incredible level of technique. I think on this day and age, every illustrator uses a graphics tablet. So now the lips. And notice that in this phase now, knowing it's the last line and that you can't just sketch like we did with the other brush, I'm already thinking about the final shapes of what I sketched. All right? A bit more for the mustache. We can do several strokes. Try not to think too much when making strokes. Anything that we make is always going to add something to the character. So don't think about, oh no, not this stroke. It's not perfect. I can't leave it like this. Just draw, okay? We can erase it afterwards. There's the beauty of drawing digitally. There's Control Z, an eraser. So don't worry about those little errors, though I don't see them as errors anyway. Everything's valid. A bit thinner here. Let's rotate the canvas a bit. When you feel comfortable, because there are people that make better curves with a certain inclination of the paper, remember that we can rotate the canvas with the letter R in the keyboard, which activates the rotate view tool, which lets you move the canvas. And when you're ready to go back to the initial position, here in the degrees box, you can just set it to 0 and it resets. I do it because in this orientation, I can make better curves. Each person knows him or herself and knows his or her strongest assets, so this way I make better curved long lines. Short ones, I can make them with the regular position. But with lines like this one, for example, it's much more comfortable for me to make them using this inclination. And let's erase a bit the end, so it ends up with this line evaluation. The ears now. Here I make some bumps already in order to highlight the fact that Stanley doesn't have straight hair, but curly hair. Around here, I don't like how it was in the sketch because I feel that the center point, which was here, doesn't go with the hair. So I'll bring the hair a bit more towards the center. This line will make it on one stroke. Little bump over here. And that would be good. Some bumps in the back. And we fill the head with bumps. It's just a way of synthesizing and symbolize that the hair has volume because of those little curls. Now the eyes. We'll make the brush size smaller. Here, because of the weight of the eyebrows, it could be that the eye is not as round, but some depth here because of the fallen eyebrow itself. You know? And just like we did with the other character, I'll set the shine in his eyes around here. The back of the neck. And we can finish the character in order not to leave him just like a cut-off neck. We can draw his uniform, which would go from this point here, the shirt, up until here. The jacket he's wearing, it joins here with another line. Oh, I'm going over that line up here. Kind of there. The shirt's neck, this band here, which is like a triangle, the tie, which is another inverted triangle. Notice I'm making the uniform the easiest way. The jacket has this here this way. Notice I'm drawing in perspective, following this imaginary line. Okay. Remember that this is also with a curve. Remember that he's not too thin, so the volume the body generates, we can even correct a bit more. And now we have this more or less. Now this is what I meant before. Let's select using the polygonal lasso tool. So hit the L key. And I'm going to select all the uniform because I want to make it a bit curvier. So Control T to transform, and then right click and use the warp option. We get a little mesh which we can modify certain points and modify a bit what we select. So there, I'm adapting a bit the curve I want to achieve in Stanley and highlight that he's a big person. I think that way would be good, yeah. Let's finish the lines that we lost because we moved a bit the geometry. Let's paint these little errors that have appeared here in the line up here. And our cartoon character would be finished. We would do the same with the next character, Emma, and start coloring. See you.